Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. Don't worry, Brant will be here as far as I know. I mean, he is MIA at the moment. We don't quite know where he's at, but he told us he was going to be here.
He
So,
read all these books. He didn't read Rogues. That's all we know. That he
right,
did not
right.
read Rogues. But
Yeah. So, welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Next to me, I have Cat Comic Uno.
hey guys, what is up?
That's right. We got a great show. We got a lot of comic books to discuss. We're going to definitely discuss the Amazing Spider-Man title. And we're going to get through this news as well. So let's, relax, enjoy. We'll take your comments, your questions, all kinds of stuff. Welcome to the viewers that are on the show so far. Tevia, hello. Redium? Redium?
That's a good name. I would love to know the origins.
James Mars Comics, the name that changes. Get the key comic. Epic coder skills and reactions. Guys, welcome to the show. We're just getting started. We have 25 viewers already. So I think it's news this week. That's what we're starting with, right? Okay.
Yes,
so we're going to get to the news. Then we'll get to comics and Amazing Spider-Man and all of that. So let's get into it. Hopefully Brant joins us very shortly.
He said he is running late, so he's not MIA anymore, but he will be on soon or shortly. This is a good week to start with news. I feel like there's not any huge topics, but there's a good amount of topics. There's definitely a lot of huge books this week to talk about, so good to start with that last. So let's get into the things I'm just going to talk about. So Harley Quinn, which I'm telling Mike to one day finish, is getting a Kite Man spinoff. And normally you'd be like, why the hell do we need a Kite Man show? But Kite Man's awesome in Harley Quinn. So I'm all ready for it. I think he has a cool arc after stuff that happened with him and Poison Ivy. I'm like, I could see this happening and I will watch. So I'm all for a Kite Man show. Which is surprising.
Yeah, when it comes to Kite Man, I'm kind of like I don't know if I need this. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. I like the Harley Quinn show. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a good show. I just can't find time to watch it when my kids are not there.
Yeah, no, right? It's a little gruesome.
I've watched like 4 episodes of the first season. So it's enjoyable. It's good, but that's about it. But I don't know if I'm into a Kite Man series. So.
Hey, finish up Harley, and then we'll see. Season 2 is great of Harley. Season 1's good, but season 2 is really good.
Mike Manhattan agrees with you, though. He's like, Kite Man, hell yeah, baby.
So that's his little slogan in the show is like, Kite Man, hell yeah. So yeah. Have you guys seen Moon Knight? So Mike is watching Moon Knight, and Brant's watching Moon Knight. Right. Is it still good? You still enjoying Moon
tomorrow,
Knight?
I think tomorrow is the last episode.
Yeah. Finale.
And
then Doctor Strange comes out.
Yeah, these last 2 episodes of Moon Knight have been freaking fantastic. And speaking of Doctor Strange, we did get tickets for Saturday, so I am nice. Saturday night at 9 p.m.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, I'll be doing probably a review with my son on it too, which will be cool.
Oh, nice. That's always fun. I love when
it's going to be a good day, man. It's like free comic book day. Doctor Strange, yeah. Like it's a good week for comic fans.
I'm seeing Doctor Strange Thursday. So our Kickstarter, which we'll talk about later, ends at 10 o'clock. So while that movie's going on, so we're treating ourselves to go to dinner and then go see Doctor Strange. And then free comic book day, we're doing a signing. So we're going to be gone the whole entire day to do that. But we have a couple of questions here. Yeah, no, it's a good packed weekend. Tevia asks, have you seen Young Justice Phantoms? I have, and I really dislike it. Honestly, I don't like it. It's a struggle to get through. I know other people have different opinions on it, but I don't like it. So I'm not the person to ask if you're looking for a positive result from the season. And I know, Mike, I don't think you've seen any of Young Justice, right? Or you only see a few?
No, nothing of this season. I haven't watched Young Justice in a long time.
Did you watch the original, or I
Yeah.
didn't even know if you watched the original.
Yeah, no, I watched the originals. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was much better back then. I don't really love the return of the show, but happy for the fans that do like it. All right, moving on to the Arrowverse stuff. Many shows have been canceled. So Batwoman was canceled, and then Legends of Tomorrow was canceled. I'm a huge Legends fan. I actually do a podcast about Legends of Tomorrow. I've been doing that podcast since before the show was out, so it's kind of hard hit for it for sure. But I think what's difficult is that the show didn't know it was going to end, and the ratings were higher than it was, and a lot of people liked the show, and it was a good show for the CW. But because of the Discovery merge, I think they're really changing what the CW is, which we've gotten news about before. They're like, yeah, the CW doesn't make us money, so you're the only shows that make us money, and we're gonna do that until we can't anymore. I'm wondering if CW is going to become like a syndicated channel where it's just like it just shows Friends, it just shows those type of shows, and that's the way they'll make money.
I mean, honestly, most of their stuff is that anyway.
No.
Except for their prime time shows. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, listen, the superhero stuff ran its course. Yes, we will be talking about Neil Adams in a little bit. So,
yes, we will.
But when it comes to CW shows, like they've run their course at this point, and I felt like that Batwoman show was doomed from the start, and and just trying to do a second season, right? It just, I don't know, people just weren't into it. So
this is actually their third season, which is crazy. What sucks is I think they found, from what I heard, I didn't watch this season, but people said they found the groove in season 2. They had a new lead, people liked it, and I was like, oh, that's a shame that it didn't start with season 1 with that character, because it seems like maybe more people would have liked the show.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely writing on the wall. That one I was like, oh, I'm not surprised by. But yeah, Legends, I was definitely surprised by, because it's like it's become its own being. Again, the ratings weren't that bad for the show.
What's left of the shows? Just
Flash for some reason, and then Superman and Lois. And Stargirl, maybe. I think that got renewed. And Naomi hasn't been renewed or canceled, but I'm guessing it's not going to get renewed.
Superman Lois is just a newer show, so that's why it's hanging around. Also, I heard it was good, so I think that might hang around for a while until they do a spinoff off of that show.
Yeah, it's already a spinoff of Supergirl, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's a spinoff of a spinoff. We did have a question about Young Justice from Supreme Omega. Do you feel like the restrictions of Cartoon Network actually helped it out? Yeah, honestly, which is so weird to say, like, because that was like the biggest complaints. It's like, oh, you can't do as much because it was a kid show. I feel like with this, sometimes they try too hard for it not to be a kid show, A, and then B, like the whole entire show is exposition. There's literally episodes and episodes where they describe, this is what Mars is. Let me tell you the whole history. Let me tell you the whole history of the Green Lanterns, and just like explains it to you and doesn't really show anything.
Right.
And that's every episode of this new show. And then they have 6 arcs in 20 minutes. And I'm not even actually joking. There's 6 arcs in 20 minutes of a show. I'm like, it seems like because they don't have any reins, there's nothing that's like pulling them back. And I think, yes, I think season 1 and 2 is better because there were some reins there. Now it's just like, I think it could be a neater show. And again, not Josh in the show. I'm glad for everyone that's enjoying it, but it's not my speed.
I miss the older cartoons at this point. No, like I especially when it comes to DC, like I used to obviously love Batman animated series. I love the Superman show, that the animated series. That was really good. Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, that was a phenomenal show. Obviously original Young Justice was really good. There were so many of those great shows, man. So it kind of sucks that they're just not quite as good,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the original Teen Titans.
Oh yeah, Teen Titans great. It's kind of crazy, and I'll answer Tevia's question in a second about Razor. It's kind of crazy, like the shows I didn't expect and are nothing like what they're trying to do with like Cartoon Network, like Harley Quinn. Like I'm so pleasantly surprised by that show because it's so different and trying not to be the old cartoons. And I think the shows that try to be the old cartoons are the ones that aren't as interesting to me. I like the DC animated films coming out right now. I don't think those have been as good. Yes, I am going to answer. Okay, Tevye has been asking this 3 times. What about Razor coming back? I've never watched a Green Lantern animated show. I know who Razor is. I think it was great that he came back, but it was very rushed. And they're just like, we're just going to do this to make people happy, but not really. I think that arc should have been 5 episodes, not 10 minutes of 1 episode to finish everything up in Green Lantern. You watched Green Lantern the animated series, right?
I don't know. I haven't watched.
Oh wow, that seemed like something that'd be up your alley.
I just haven't ever got a chance to watch. The only thing I watched was a Green Lantern movie a while back. I'm trying to remember what the heck it was. I know what you're talking about. I even did a review on it on my channel like eons ago.
And I remember really I remember which one you're talking about. It was years ago, but it was one of the animated films. I do not remember what it was called, but that was back in the day when I think the animated films were pretty good. Injustice even came out for an animated film. I have not seen it, so I can't give judgment, but I haven't heard anyone be like, oh my God, this is the best movie to watch. And I feel like since like Under the Red Hood days, the animated films haven't been as strong. All right, let's get into some more news pieces here. So Amanda Waller is going to be in a Peacemaker spinoff. So I know that Mike does not watch Peacemaker, but in the show, spoiler alert for people that haven't watched it, one of the main characters is actually Amanda Waller's daughter. And we find that out like throughout the show. And we're actually like pretty towards the beginning of the show. So it makes a lot of sense that they would have a spinoff. And she definitely is a very interesting character. One of my favorites. So I hope the daughter would be in the show and not just Amanda Waller. But they set up really well for something with Amanda Waller. So I think that's interesting that Viola Davis could have her own DC television show.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into something you wanted to talk about, Mike. The Fantastic Four director has already left the movie. So
so it wasn't like what I read from the article, it wasn't any like bad blood or anything like that. It was basically the director just realized that he was burnt out and wants to take a break from doing superhero stuff. And just because he did all the Spider-Man stuff, so now it's just like, he said he was going to do Fantastic Four, but then it's just like, I guess he's just, again, burnt out from it. So now, I feel like this is a big deal because they had a director attached to this. The Fantastic Four are in the works of coming back, and now they don't have a director. So now they got to find a director here, and they got to find a good one because this movie is super important for the next phase of Marvel Comics for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm damn. So is it canceled? No, the movie's not canceled. They'll just find another director. Parker Lux, do we have thoughts on Incredible Hulk or the Wonder Woman 1970s show? I watched the Incredible Hulk show when I was like 9, so I don't remember much about it besides it not being great. And then I met Lou Ferrigno once, and then the Wonder Woman show also don't have much of a background with. I've seen a few episodes here and there. It's obviously a classic, but it's not something that I go back to.
I watched the Incredible Hulk series when I was a kid. God, I only remember watching it probably, I kid you not, like I was 5 or 6.
Wow. So we both watched it young.
I was born in 1975. So, I mean, maybe it was still on the air then. Like, I don't even know. Or it was just repeats. And I just remember it was just like, for me, it was like creepy as fuck, dude. I was like, who is this guy in this chair? And then he's this big hulking monster. Like I knew nothing at the time. You know what I'm saying? It was just weird. And I just knew he was scary. And then when it came to Wonder Woman, I knew Wonder Woman and I was like, oh, that's Wonder Woman. And so like, she always spun in a circle, right? Is that how she like transformed or something?
Yeah.
And I was like, why is she got spin in a circle and transform? But I thought she was kind of cool. But they have a certain feel to them. I mean, they're shows from the 70s,
they're
right?
So old. Yeah. Not that they don't have a awesome thing in history, but I just don't think, unless you grew up with those shows, I don't think you're really going back to them. I think they have a lot of better products these days than Hulk and Wonder Woman, but they're very nostalgic.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some comic news here. So, sadly, Neil Adams passed away this week. That was crazy because there was no George Perez. We're getting some, we found out he has cancer and that he's not well. Neil Adams, we didn't hear anything. It was like, oh, here's the news that he passed.
Yeah. And sometimes that happens, but rest in peace to Neil Adams. Man is one of the greats when it comes to, comic books. Definitely a staple when it comes to like Batman and probably revolutionizing like artwork and whatnot. I know a lot of people in the chats and just in messages and saying that they met him and they said he was a great guy. I never personally met him.
He was at a lot of Comic Cons. I've definitely saw his signs a lot at Comic Cons.
And, when you look at him, it's just like, he's like one of those, again, like he's like one of the greats, like a George Perez or a, Stan Lee, just like in that, when you think of Neil Adams, you think of, he's one of those great people, and he'll be missed for sure. And I know it hit a lot of people hard, and hopefully he's in a better place, and he'll be missed for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to, let's see, we have Skybound reveal some YA novels. The only thing I really want to discuss with this is that I think it's very cool that we're getting to see different companies do YA. I think that's very important for kids to get into comics and to see. I mean, I know they did the Walking Dead stuff, so to see other things that they're doing here, I think it's cool. So that's all I really had to say about that.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean,
if I was a child, maybe I have a little bit more to say.
I mean, the only thing I could say about it is kind of go back to what you said. It's just like, as long as there's these novels for younger readers out there, I think that's a good thing.
Exactly. And, if it's all ages, maybe parents could enjoy it as well. So the next thing we're going to talk about is, this is actually announced today, that Gwen Stacy book that came out like 2 years ago is finishing in a giant size book. So that I guess it was out of continuity miniseries, slice of life Archie style book that I didn't love is finally coming to an end. I'm like,
what?
Why did it take? Yeah.
Like, I vaguely remember that book, but I can't.
Yeah.
I don't have an image in my head. Is it in?
She was running for it's the last thing on Comic News. Remember the one where she was like running for class president? That was the story.
Oh my God, yes, I do remember this.
So that's finally ending.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Right? And they're making it like a giant size.
Why would you even bother? Wow.
I guess maybe just for the creators at that point, because it's just like, man, and honestly, that's such a shame on the creators' part. Like, they worked so hard and then they had to wait like 2.5 years to get the end of their book.
Wow, that's stupid. You might as well just not even put it out. No one's gonna buy that.
Or release it as a graphic novel. I think at that point that's what you do. That way, for people that were collecting it, get the graphic novel, great. But to have a whole single issue of it, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's ridiculous.
That's not news. I read that they were going to finish in a trade last year because I was doing research to see when it would start coming out. Love the book. It is news because now we know it's going to be a single issue. I think that's crazy. Like, if it was just a trade, then it would be different. But I think it's crazy that it's a single issue.
That's funny. It's so funny.
Jacob adds, Weird Al has a biopic starring Daniel Radcliffe. I've known about this movie. I did not see the trailer yet, but I got my AMC stubs. I might go see it. It looks weird for sure. All right, moving on to DC reveals the full lineup for the Without the Justice League specials. So we knew about the Superman Robin book that was coming out with Tom King. Now we have some others. We have the Superman issue 1. Oh, that was the one I just mentioned. Green Lantern issue 1, which is written by the writer of Action Comics, with a backup story with Hawkgirl. Then we have the Justice League, which is written by Tini Howard. backup about Martian Manhunter. Green Arrow is getting a book, and that's written by the writer of Harley Quinn with a Black Canary backup. And then I'm sorry, the last one was Wonder Woman, not Justice League. Not Green Arrow. The one before that, the Teenie Howard book was Wonder Woman. Batman is going to be by C. Spurrier, who's done like stuff with Constantine, with a Zatanna backup story. And interestingly enough, this is coming out once a month. So it starts in July, ends in November. That seems like a lot for these type of stories. Are we going to be interested 5 months in? Be like, oh, I need to get that next issue.
I don't know. That's a lot.
The only reason I want to comment on this is I think it's cool that they're doing things that aren't Batman.
Yeah, well, obviously, because it's an event. The thing is that you're getting all these writers that, I don't know, they're writing different characters, so that they're not getting, it doesn't seem like they're getting any different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are unhappy with the way DC books are being written. So what makes these same people going to write these characters better? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. And the backup stories bother me because that means it's going to be more money.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be very pricey for sure. I mean, there's a few that I think I'd try out. Like I think Green Arrow. We haven't gotten a Green Arrow book in such a long time.
I agree.
I'm interested in that. Batman, maybe, depending on what it's about, which is weird because I'm like, oh, we don't need just Batman books, but I like Batman. So, but Wonder Woman, I'm probably gonna skip. We'll see about Green Lantern. Depends on what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try whatever. I mean, I'll look at it and see that comic book week if I'm into it. You know, you probably only need to read a couple of them to see how it's actually going to be, and then make your decision from there.
Yeah, for sure. That's usually the go-to. Now, the last news piece we have here, which is Frank Miller is launching an independent publishing company with New Sin City, Ronin Comics, and I'm guessing other stuff in the works. And he's working with Dan Didio. I love news like this. I think it's so interesting to see where comics is going, and it's so interesting to see these big time creators, they're staples at DC Comics or even Marvel, doing their own thing and showing this could be the future of comics and not just relying on superhero comics and in the mainstream to make something big and splashy. I think this is really cool news. Now, am I going to pick it up? No, because I don't really love Sin City or Ronin, but I think it's cool for Frank Miller fans that he has control and is able to bring out new products for himself.
Yeah, I agree. I welcome it. It's just more competition out there. It's just another place to check out comics, just to let people know that there's more than Marvel and DC, and these are people that you recognize. And even though maybe people weren't fans of like Dan Didio in DC, how do you know you're not a fan of him in this new place where he's working with Frank Miller? It could be really cool. I don't know. And who else could eventually go over there? That's like, is Miller just going to write the comics? I don't think so. I think it's going to be his own publishing company, and then he's going to get other people to join it.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And I think that's super interesting because who are going to be the likes of these people? Could this be a birth of something like an Image Comics or,
right.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. Again, it's just cool to see where comics are going and just how many different type of stories we could get. All right, well, that's all the news. So before we jump into the comics, and of course that our big topic, I do want to mention that I have a Kickstarter going on. This is live until Thursday, so there's very little time left to back it up. It is about an anime character that comes to life and falls in love with a high school cheerleader. So hopefully you guys could go check it out. We also have a webtoon, so you can read it for free to see if it's your thing. And then the physical comics have exclusive stories in there. So hopefully you guys could go check it out. Get a plush doll, get all different sorts of things, variant covers, foil covers, metal covers. So go check that all out. And we are going to jump into comic books.
That is right, guys. Let me make the switch over to the comics because there was a huge amount of comics this week. And let me just tell you, I had, I think, 20 something books to read, and I still had 12 to read today. And so I was exhausted reading all those books. in itself. But just wanted to let you guys know, if if you have not read your comics and you don't want to get spoiled, then don't watch. So we're going to spoil some things. And Facebook user, hello. And again, guys, thank you all for joining. I don't know where Brant's at because he said he's running late. He's running.
He said he's
late.
coming. He
Is
said
he?
he's coming. I just
Okay,
saw Facebook. I was like, let me check to see. He said, "Oh, did you guys finish the books?" I said, "Oh, we did news first, so don't worry about it."
Right. All right. So I'm going to skip Amazing Spider-Man just because I want to have Brant on here. I'll skip Justice League as well. So we're going to talk about Saga issue 58.
That makes sense.
That is mine and Kat's book. I felt not a lot happened in this issue. However, we did get a pretty cool ending, right?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this issue. I agree. It's not like, oh my God, best issue ever, but I thought it was it's a point A to point B issue. It was good because you have the beginning that was just fun visual with Alana. And then, yeah, we do find out about the partner maybe not being the greatest guy, which is interesting. You know, what did he do? Can we trust him? And he's being a little blackmailed for it seems like as well. So there's definitely some interesting movement, good artwork. It was a solid book for me.
Yeah, I mean, I always like it. Saga's always a good book. There's some issues that are more like not a lot happen, but it's like if you were read that into trade, it would just be like just one little scene. You know, it's kind of decompressed that way.
Oh yeah, 100. It's definitely a book that is made for trade. But it's also interesting that it kind of is made for the single issue too. Because when the big issues come, they come, and you're like, whoa,
yeah.
You know, you want to read that in single issues and not just trade. And Brant is here, so Brant, hello. We just talked about Saga just for you, so that way you didn't have to.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
we waited for you. Yeah,
I appreciate it. Sorry, I apologize to everyone for my absence. I was dealing with some stuff around the home, which included crawling into the attic and trying to get the air conditioner to work again.
But, no, that's happening again. Oh,
yeah,
no.
I think it got flipped from the storm the other night, and so we had to fool with it, but it's working now, I think. So fingers crossed.
or else it'll be a very hot podcast.
Yeah.
Was there any other news pieces that you wanted to discuss before we just only talked about Saga for comics?
Yeah. I'm just perusing it real quick to see if there's anything I had to add of any worth. Not a whole lot. So
yeah.
I'm sure you guys
this week.
Right. I'm sure you guys covered it thoroughly. So yeah, I'm good.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So we talked about Saga. Before we get into Amazing Spider-Man, we'll talk about the other big book this week, which was Justice League issue 75, The Death of the Justice League. You're like, so many thoughts. I didn't have that many thoughts. That's
why I have so many thoughts, is that I was so underwhelmed.
So from what I heard, a lot of people said that you would have to read
you got to read the other stuff,
Incarnate, to get a better feel for it and whatnot. I read that first one, that Infinite Frontier, and I didn't enjoy that much. And I think there was another part after that, but I'm not sure what that was.
It was like Justice League. I don't remember the name, but there was another
Incarnate. Is that the same thing?
No,
that's something else.
One. I think it was attached to it. There was two of them. I'm sure the people in the comments know what it was, but I also have only read, I think, maybe the first two of those, the first issue. And honestly, with this, it seemed like it was all like the multiverses happen here. The way they died, I love the splash, or the double page. I was like, oh, that was really cool, but the story itself was very underwhelming. And they're like, of course, Black Adam has to be the lead here. I'm like, oh, why should I care?
Yeah. I mean, I love the way the book looked.
Yeah,
the way it was presented. Great. The action was really good. My thing of it, and I made this a thing in my in what's it called? In my video, was what this book lacked was heart. Like, this is the death of Justice League. This is the death of, Batman and Green Lantern or whatever, whoever else was in there, right? This is supposed to be a big deal, and it's just kind of like they all disintegrated and died. And it was just like, oh. And there was no real character moment. The only person that had somewhat of a character moment was like Ollie, where he like thought he saved the day, and then he gets smashed by Doomsday. And I was like, oh, damn. I'm like, that's pretty intense right there. But besides him, it was like the deaths didn't mean anything. And yeah, they're going to come back, and we all know that. But still, you want that good story that's going to, make you excited or, feel for their deaths. Again, it lacked heart for me. And that was my issue with it.
And what's interesting is that I'll keep calling back to Shadow War just because it's the same company. It's like how Shadow War could make you feel for Ra's al Ghul's death, where, this is the character that's known for coming back and never dying. Like, you can make us feel for him, but you don't make us feel for the death of Superman and Batman and all that. It's so hard because I also didn't like Flashpoint. I know you guys like that. I didn't like that. I'm a little nervous about Dark Crisis. I'll give issue 1 definitely a shot. But, I just don't know how to feel about this. I think the best thing is that we had Doomsday Clock. We had so much teasing of this event that nothing is going to make me happy, I feel. Because, it's been so many years. How can you make this satisfying? It's like you've been teasing this for so long. And we'll talk about teasing with Spider-Man as well. It's kind of like the One More Day thing. It's like, if you revert that, it's like you've been teasing us for so long. How can you make it wonderful? For this is like, all right, DC, when are you going to make a move to actually do something different? Because you've been saying it, and every single story is saying this is going to change everything, changes nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And I completely agree with both of you. The heart was what I was missing too. And it's like you go back to Crisis on Infinite Earths, or pretty much any other crisis, and you do get that heart throughout the story. And my hopes is that they're like trying to use this for the shock value and then go into the heart in the actual Dark Crisis series. But that's a gamble, because if you don't get people invested with this book, with this issue, then you're going to lose people going into that event because they're not going to care as much, like you guys are saying.
Right.
And all the people in the comments make a good point that it's not connected to the other books either. So
Right.
It's not like, it's affecting Action Comics or it's affecting Batman. So it's harder to feel like this is real.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you read, like you guys said, you read the other Crises, and then you look at the covers of the one where Superman is holding Supergirl. Look at the emotion just on the cover alone. Yeah. Right? I mean, that says it all right there. Look at the death of Superman. Now, I know that was like the first real death of a major character in comics, but still, look at the buildup that they had leading up to that death. And when Superman died, you felt something, right? I mean, there was weight behind that. And there was no weight here,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I had a thought and I just lost it. But it's just, I don't know. It was a little disappointing in that regard. I like you said, the book was gorgeous.
Even the cover was really cool. Like the quality of it, like it was this black type cover, and then you had the regular cover right here. It was like, they put money into this, you know? And I was like, man, I wish I liked the story more.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that they're highlighting the younger, newer characters and all that stuff. But I know what I was going to say. There's articles out there already speculating on how this isn't really deaths, that it's comparing it to what happened to the Flash, and how this they may have just been transported to some utopia, and that's what these one-shot specials are. I don't know if you guys talked about that in the news or not, but it's.
Well, we did talk about the specials, but we didn't talk about the possibility that it could be.
That's kind of the
place.
Right.
That's
kind
of
the assumption that they
speculation.
disintegrated and they went somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. So if that's the case, then it takes any weight of those deaths away immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say the death of Justice League, I mean, that's like the biggest, like, that cover alone just is just like, oh yeah, these characters are dying. Like, it's the biggest, like, I don't know. It's like clickbait for like a YouTube video, and then you technically don't really get that,
Yeah.
So
yeah. It just feels like, oh, we need an event to have an event for people to buy. It's like, but what happened? What happened to the Shadow Wars? What happened to the events where it's like, no, this has been building up in Robin for like
Yeah.
10 issues. Like, what happened to stories like that?
I think if this connected, if this had an effect throughout the DC universe, this could be a much more impactful comic. And you know, so
yeah,
I don't
like
know, we'll see.
disassembled for Avengers, something of that scale. Yeah,
right. So we'll see. Trev, the shipping guru, says clickbait. Exactly.
I love this comment from Berserker. The way DC has been, the best Justice League story this year will be the dinosaurs.
That's coming out. Not tomorrow, but the following week.
Yeah,
Ooh.
been seeing those advertisements,
over it, dude. I am all. Over
I'm
it.
not.
I'm
so
not either.
Buying it. Yes, I'm definitely.
You'll have to let us know how it is.
I think it's gonna be number one comic of the year.
That's a lot.
I can't even respond to that.
All right, so let's talk about it. Here we go, guys. We're going to talk about The Amazing Spider-Man issue 1, the book that everyone was waiting for a long time. You know, Zeb Wells, everyone was iffy on John Romita Jr. Some people actually like the return of it, and there's a lot of mixed emotions going on with this book. And one of the biggest things is that a lot of people are ready to dismiss it after issue 1. And
which is crazy, especially with the cliffhanger. How do you dismiss it?
Get on board with that. You can't define someone's run off of one issue, right? No. And you just can't. And I get you don't like the artwork. I totally understand that. And I'm a huge fan of artwork, and I feel like artwork makes the book itself. But if the only thing you can truly find wrong with it is the artwork, then you didn't read the story. You know what I'm saying? And there is folks out there that they spend most of the time talking about how bad the artwork was and never complained about the story or just one little feature of the story. But this book has potential. There's a lot of threads. There's a lot of questions here. Like, what happened to Peter Parker? There's 6 months of his life that we don't see, plus that, because he went somewhere else. He obviously went somewhere else and came back, and his whole life is in actual ruins right now. And obviously people don't get along with him right now. Mary Jane has some fucking boyfriend. She's got kids. Like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. And when I got done reading it, I was like, listen, this may not be the best story in the world, might not be the best number 1 issue in the world, might not be the best artwork in the world. However, I am definitely intrigued, and I want to know all those answers to those questions.
I think the stuff I really liked about it was definitely, the groundingness of old Parker Luck. Okay, he's got a lot going on and it's not great. I like that a lot. I like seeing the supporting characters. I didn't love the art, so I didn't love that aspect. But I like the ending and I hated the ending all at once because I really liked that it was something different. Because it's like, oh, this is really cool and I want to see what happens. But then there's this part of me is like, oof, they're doing again. They're teasing us this one more day shit. And it's just like, been doing this for how many years now? And I'm like, I'm just kind of tired of the teasing. So that worries me a lot because it just feels like the same thing over and over again. But the angle was different, which definitely makes me intrigued. So I honestly thought it was a pretty good first issue. We'll see where it ends up going because we also liked Beyond's first issue and we also liked Nick Spencer's first issue. But I'm hoping for the best, and I think it has promise for sure.
I'm torn. So, I mean, right? I have a hard time getting past the art too. It's a hard thing, but obviously I'm a Spider-Man fan. I'm going to be invested in the story no matter what. But I don't like the cliffhanger, and I don't understand why do this all over again with him and split them up or whatever they're doing. What is this time jump? What does all this mean? It's interesting. It's got me intrigued. I got to read the next issue to find out, what the heck is going on. So it did its job there. But I like seeing some of the supporting cast back. so that's a plus. I even like the thing with Tombstone a little bit, but
Yeah.
so like you both said, there are threads that you can hang on to here, but the overall package was it didn't live up to the hype of brand new number one, that kind of thing for me. So I'm not excited yet, but I'm on board. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, the book did have its moments, and I look at it this way, like, yes, we have been through the Mary Jane and Peter situation many times, and we know what we're going to get at this point. They, for some reason, they don't want these two together or whatnot. But I look at it this way. If Mary Jane is in the book, I feel like it's better than her not being in the book.
I'm scared for after issue 2, though. Issue 2 could make her leave the book.
I hope not. But, Nick Spencer sat there and brought her in the book. And then he's like, well, I'm going to make kind of like my own series and push her out of the Amazing Spider-Man book.
Yeah.
Right.
See,
and then
I don't think that was him. I really think that was probably editorial. I really think it was just
well, maybe editorial is kind of behind this too.
Yeah, no, yeah, it definitely could be. Look, we're not behind closed doors, so we don't know.
But I feel bad, like, seriously, like the Aunt May situation. I was like, oh, dude, that's pretty cold. Going back to Peter about, I can't trust you, or if you're going to even show up to dinner. But my thing is we all know that John Romita Jr. is not going to be on the artwork permanently. Okay. We all know that. Right. And so if we can get past that, we do know that issue 900, McGinnis is on that
Yeah.
issue. Yeah. So you're going to get that at least. But I mean, the Rose thing was okay. What else was in that book? Trying to remember.
I mean, I think the major plots were definitely Randy's marriage, the whole Aunt May stuff, and MJ.
Right.
That's kind of it. Those are kind of the major stuff.
In this whole 6-month gap that we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Who is Paul?
Who the heck is Paul? And when you look at these kids, like, one looks like MJ, right?
One looks like Peter to me. That looked like Peter's. I still think it's like their kids. Maybe
it's hard to take it seriously though, because way Romita draws, you can't really get it to think of how old they are, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, not only that, if it's only been 6 months, there's no way there's kids that old. So where the heck did they come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was my biggest thing. Some people said that it was Paul's kids.
Yeah, which is possible.
The red hair, I guess.
Yeah, maybe he has a thing for redheads, and their mom's a redhead.
Yeah, maybe. Oh man. I'm definitely curious to see where. But mommies, that's 6 months. That's even. Really? They just dated? They okay, first of all, let's say she probably didn't get with him until like maybe 5 months. She had to get over Peter for a little bit, right? He was only gone for 6. So they were already calling her mom? That's crazy. Yeah,
I don't get it. There's got to be a killer explanation for this whole thing, or it just falls apart.
So, like,
maybe it's just not our MJ. It's another MJ.
Peter didn't have a job, did he? He was looking for a job, and he didn't have a job.
He's always looking for a job.
He was looking for one, and he was late. He was late for an interview and didn't get a job.
Oh yeah.
Last volume, he was still in school. I think he was going back to school. I guess he graduated in between there.
What I do appreciate, though, is going back to the Nick Spencer run and having, is it Randy? Randy asking the Beetle in hand in marriage.
Oh, yeah.
And then going to Tombstone and asking Tombstone's permission for it. I thought that was kind of cool. And Peter was a good friend there, kind of looking out for his friend by being there. So I did think he was kind of cool there.
And what was cool about that is that was built up. I mean, because I think it was Tevi who said, like, oh, who cares about Randy? Oh, it was boring. It's like, but at least it's been built up. Like, it makes sense.
It's continuity.
Yeah, and it's continuity.
I mean, there were aspects of it, even like, we've gotten comments in the past about how John Romita's storytelling is top notch. I'm not knocking the storytelling. I'm just not a fan of the art style. I just wanted to clarify that. So like when
The
he's
facial expressions are weird. I'm sorry.
yeah, the facial expressions, the lines on the face, the blocky, boxy figure work, it's just not my thing. But like some of the panel work, like where he lands on the car and then he's like laying down with his arms crossed, that kind of stuff I thought was decent and it was good storytelling and it led me, it led me in the right direction, storytelling wise. So I do appreciate that aspect of it.
Yeah, there was some good moments and then there was some not so good moments.
Right.
Like I've seen a lot worse from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was probably, even though there was some moments, there was some, I think this was one of his better issues. So, because he had time to do this first issue.
You could definitely, you could tell he didn't rush this one, and that's probably why it was a little delayed. We do have a question for Supreme Omega. Do you feel Zeb Wells would be more suited for a B title, Spider-Man title like Spectacular, just because of the more drama stuff, crime drama stuff? I think it's hard to tell. It's only been one issue. I don't know. Honestly, I thought Wells did a great job with Beyond, and that was some of the bigger action stuff with the Goblin stuff. Yeah.
I personally don't like it when they shuffle that kind of stuff to a second title because I don't know, it just
in the first one.
Exactly. Yeah, and it
balancing act.
It seems less important when you shift it to a secondary title.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree as well. I think this is, listen, who knows how many issues he's going to write. So I guess time is just going to tell. I think if you're a Spider-Man fan, I think you stick with it, see what happens, right? Give it a couple story arcs. I mean, if you've been through the Spider-Man, through the thick and the thin, why drop it now, right? I mean, honestly, I think after some of these Beyond issues, this story really wasn't all that bad. And again, Zeb Wells could be just messing with you just to get a reaction out of you. So if he did get a reaction out of you, whether it's good or bad, you agreed or disagreed, then he did his job. Like he got people talking about the issue, right? It's just the one thing is whether people are willing to keep reading it or not, which again, too many questions to just sit there and dump it. Right.
I like that there's things that happen in this book. I rather have questionable things than nothing happen. Like the Justice League book, like the Death of Justice League. The reason I was so underwhelmed was there wasn't much to talk about. They're like, okay, cool, they died. Like we knew that was going to happen. There wasn't anything that really was monumental. And with this, there's something that happened where we could talk about it, which I think is, even if you dislike it, at least it's a good starting point for a story.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So that is Amazing Spider-Man. So at the end of the day, I'm going to continue to read it. I've read Spider-Man since issue 313, so I'm not going to stop anytime soon. Brant, you're going to continue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Literally, the book could have white pages, and I think all three of us would still be picking it up. So,
Tevia says the artwork just doesn't do it for me. Like I said,
I agree. Yeah.
I agree too, but he's not going to be on the book forever. The one thing this book did do for me, though, is something about it, though, made it have a familiar feel to it. I don't know what it was. It felt more like a Spider-Man comic. So I don't know if it had to do with like him battling like the street level heroes or whatnot, but it felt very familiar.
I thought it was the balancing act. It was that there was a lot of stories that made sense together. And then I also think it was because he was down on his luck. I think that was a big part too. We didn't even mention that Human Torch shows up and they got some drama there too, which is very interesting. I want to know what that's all about.
Yeah.
All right. So what's this? What's the deal for the long box of Lost and Found comics with the Spider-Man poly bag? Oh, I think he's talking about me. So I had a long box of comics that I did not go through before my garage sale. And so I was like, oh, let me just make a video of this at the same time. So I go through this box. And so what happens is I found a Ultimate Comics Spider-Man issue 1.
Damn.
So it was, and it was still polybagged too. And I was like, oh shit, it's polybagged. And I realized that with it being in that long box, it probably pressed against the comic and made a crease in it. So I asked people, what should I do with this? Should I leave it in the poly bag or take it out of it? And so I had like a 50-50 mix. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it out. So I took it out of the poly bag. This book is in like perfect ass condition. It's like,
oh man,
no ticks, no nothing. But then you flip it over and there's that crease from that poly bag. So I was
it's still probably worth something just because the front
yeah,
is
and then
good.
I think you could get it out with a press. If it gets pressed, I think it would definitely come out. But there's not a single issue with it besides that. But it looks nice, man. I was like, wow, really good looking book. But that's a little story behind it there.
Nice.
Yeah. It's always cool to find stuff. Oh, and I found I had this I forgot about.
I remember that series.
The first Red She-Hulk. So
Yeah.
I had that too. So it's cool finding stuff that I didn't even know I had. You know, that's what's
I haven't looked at my boxes in years. I gotta go through them and just also take some stuff out. Oh, I have so many stuff also that I know like I don't personally need in my collection, but other people could enjoy. And I would love to take some of that stuff out and just be like, oh, cool, I have more room for other stuff. But it's to find the time to do it all is fun.
It is definitely hard. All right, so there's our Amazing Spider-Man talk. We'll see what happens in the next issue. I hope that this is the best Spider-Man run ever. So
I hope so too. I don't have a feeling of that, but I hope I like it.
All right. So number 5 on our list. Here we go. Brant, what was yours?
Oh man, I was trying to cobble together my list, my rankings as you guys were talking. I think I'll go with Miss Marvel. Just because there were some fun moments between the characters. I didn't love the issue. I didn't love the whole story plot, but I did enjoy the stuff with what is her name? The new
Nadia?
Wasp. Yeah, Nadia. I like the stuff with Nadia and Bruno and Kamala together. So that was fun.
I hate that it was just a mini series because I felt like a little really let down. So like, oh, but how about like Zoe and Nakia? And like, I don't feel like it was finished. It just felt so just there and kind of forgettable. And I was like, oh man, that's a shame. Like it was fine and the art was good, but it just kind of feels there and nothing's really progressing with her.
I completely agree with that. It's like I was going between that and Carnage, and both like. My 5 and down until my last 2 are all just like the same, so it was just like hard. Yeah, it was a juggling act. So
I was kind of the same thing with like my number 6 and my number 5. I'm like, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. But Kat, what was yours?
Mine was Spider-Man, so we talked about it.
So I flipped a lot between Spider-Man being number 5, 6, or 7, right? So but it didn't finish in my top 5.
Ooh,
so
I thought it would be in your top 5 because it seemed like you enjoyed it the most out of both of us.
It was originally when I did my After the Pool episode. It originally was my number. I wrote this down. My number 3.
Oh wow!
So it dropped all the way down to number 7. So,
wow!
Yeah. And I liked it, but don't get me wrong. Like Brant said, there is a lot of books that were just as good or maybe a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Because again, you have to write the art. You know, that was the hardest part. I think Spider-Man would have maybe even been my number 3 if it was a different artist. So
right.
I also didn't get a chance to read The Last Ronin, so that would have factored top 5 too.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so here is my actual number 5. My number 5 is The Last Ronin.
Oh, there you go.
I thought that would be higher too. It seemed like you guys were like loving that series.
It really is a solid series, and I don't want to spoil it for Brant, so I'm not going to say anything. But it was I flipped through it, so I get the gist of it. In case we wanted to talk about it, I didn't want to. Okay. Okay.
So
I mean, it was so you talked about a book that had heart, right? This book has the heart. because you get to see Michelangelo battling Shredder, this version of the Shredder, right? And it's just like he's sacrificing himself. He winds up dying at the end. You feel that emotion between him and Casey, and he gets to be reunited with his brothers in a different place later on. And it was a really nice ending, and it leaves it open for something else at the end. This could continue going forward. So I thought that was really cool. I mean, if this series came out, like within a reasonable time and not a year to get out 5 issues, this would probably be one of my favorite books, because this was a really solid story. So
I think I'm pretty sure I pre-ordered the hardcover, so I'm gonna have it all. I'm gonna reread it all.
Gotcha.
Then, but yeah, I really enjoy the story too, and there, the previous issues too, there was a lot of heart with all his brothers in his head, and I did see, like, at the beginning of this one somewhere he told them all to finally just leave him alone and stop talking and that kind of thing. So it was, I can't wait to actually read it in full and get that full experience with it.
Yeah, that would be cool. And originally my original 5 was Something of Killing the Children, issue 22. That was my original number 5. So even though Something is Killing the Children was really good, I like this a little bit more. So really cool stuff there. So I'm happy. Now, it was so hard to decide, man. I was like, no, I don't know, but
yeah.
All right. So let's move forward now. Let's talk about Dark Knights of Steel. This is issue 6. I love the book. Really good. However, not as strong for me as some of the other issues. I felt like this was kind of like either like a calm after the big, huge issue of what happened with Batman. It was more like kind of like a setup or Superman to prevent actual war from happening. It was like a big cover-up game. You get the situation with, like, is it Dick? Who was the
no,
it was Tim.
It was Tim. Okay.
Yeah.
It was Tim who was the spy, and they found that out. And then you wound up getting Constantine, who you found out that he was in love with Black Lightning. You get kind of all those revelations in there. So even though there was some decent moments in that book, it wasn't as impactful. Again, it was just, there's 12 issues in this, so there's going to be a little bit of a, slower issues here and there. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read.
I really enjoyed this issue. I agree that it was a point A to point B issue, but I think this is the way to do a point A to point B, because you really felt the build up to this war and like the puzzle pieces coming together.
Right.
And the character moments were really good. Like, I liked the Constantine moment just to open up. I was like, oh, that was good. And then I was like, oh, how are they going to top this? And then you get Superman and Lois. You get Superman interacting with the Amazons. There was just a lot of beats that I enjoyed about this issue as we lead into obviously something that's going to be bigger for the series. But I think, as Trev, the shipping guru, said, this is the best DC title right now, by far, leaps and bounds. This is the best DC title. I mean, I think Robin comes close for me, but Dark Knights of Steel.
Yeah.
And Nightwing used to be. I feel like Nightwing's kind of lost his groove a little bit.
Nightwing's dropping, yeah.
Right.
But I think it's one of the best books on stands right now. Like, forget DC. I think it's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm more on your side of that, Kat. I really enjoyed this issue. Just like those little moments with, like, where Superman is like hovering above, and they're like, no man can lay foot, and he's like, I haven't set foot, and then she stabs him with the magical sword, and it's like, wow, is this thinking, putting that in comparison to like the main DCU, seeing Hippolyta stab Superman in the stomach it just, it invoked that imagery, right? And the stuff with John Constantine and Tim Drake and all that, and the revelation that Zala killed, Black Lightning's kid, and she's like news to me, and just all these little moments coming together. And I thought there was a lot of heart and a lot of emotion in this, but I agree, it was like, for all of my fellow Game of Thrones fans out there, it was like those episodes where they're about to go to war and they're in that planning stage, and all, like you said, all the puzzle pieces were coming together, and then next issue it sets off, and or next episode
it's a calm before the storm.
And what's
Right,
interesting
exactly.
about Superman, though, in particular, because the previous issues, you're like, oh, he's just a bad guy, like he's not good, and then you realize,
Right.
he doesn't even know his sister did this. He doesn't want to believe it. So I think there's definitely complicated layers. Like, yeah, he might still be a bad guy, but there's something
keep
more
bringing
to
it
that.
up, but he doesn't want to believe it.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Hope Dark Knights of Steel doesn't fizzle out like Marvel Dark Ages. 6 more
Dark-
issues to go, I think.
Dark Ages fizzled out by issue 2 for me. So I was like, oh, I think it was just good
Yeah.
issue 1. Like Dark Knights of Steel, there hasn't been a bad issue. And it's already been 6 issues.
I thought Dark Knights is I'm sorry. Marvel Dark Ages fizzled out when they started when they went through the river. I was like,
oh, that was when
and that was your
out.
setup issue for war there. And so I was like, they're making their way over to Apocalypse's land. And I'm like, I don't know if I like this, this issue here. And then sure enough, from there on out, it definitely fizzled out. So let's hope. I don't think this does. This has a lot more moving pieces and a lot more character growth than that Dark Ages book ever had. So I think this is going to be good.
There's also a lot more freedom to do something different with Dark Knights of Steel, because Dark Ages, even though it was an alternate timeline or whatever, it was still within continuity of the characters as they were in the Marvel Universe. It was just in the future, right? So with Dark Knights of Steel, it's like completely different scenarios, completely different characters, and all that stuff, ambitions and whatnot. So
Berserker actually brings up a really good point. So who did kill Black Lightning? Was it a shapeshifter? In my mind, when I read it, I just kept thinking she's just a denial. And I was just like, oh, like she just definitely did it and keeps lying.
I think she did it. I mean, that's my opinion there. And she's just trying to be like, oh, it's not me. I would never do that. You have to believe me, Superman.
Yeah, I thought if it is a shapeshifter, we haven't seen Martian Manhunter yet.
That
would be a freaking killer twist, though, if that was the case.
Right?
That would be insane. And he shows up, and oh my god, that would be wild.
Yeah.
Either way, I like either direction. If it's a shapeshifter, interesting story. If it's just her lying, interesting story. You know?
That would be freaking crazy, though. All right, so let's see. That was Dark Knights of Steel, right? So we talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So let's move on to number 4. So, Kat, what was yours?
Mine was Punisher issue 2. This book is kind of blowing me away because I never thought I'd like a Punisher book. I never went past an issue 1 for a Punisher book. And there's not like a ton that happens, right? Like story-wise, it's just a point A to point B. But the way they tell the story and the emotional weight of it, especially like just seeing him as a kid and then seeing him what's going on now, is really interesting. And I like that they actually talk about the weight of like having a gun in your hand and like what that is with a Punisher story.
Can I ask you about this though? So how do you like, I know you haven't read a lot of Punisher, Cat, but how do you feel about them kind of messing with Frank Castle? Because never have they ever brought up with him having a, say, behavior disorder when he was a kid.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a retcon,
Right.
See,
so
I think it's interesting. Do something different with the character. I really think it's I like it, honestly. Again, I'm not a hardcore Punisher fan, so I can't tell you.
I don't have a problem with it either. Right? I think it kind of adds to the character a little bit to know that he was a little bit, I felt like they took it a little bit overboard. I think maybe like if he was a little bit unhinged or if he had a little bit of a violent tendencies or whatever, but here they made him like a really bad kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it was always hard for me to grasp, okay, yes, he lost his family and all that stuff, but he was a cop. He was a good guy. He was, trying to do the right thing. Justice meant something to him. And then that one thing makes him snap to become a mass murderer. Yeah. And it's like, it's a little.
But listen, think about it that way. Like, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But you got to understand, like, everybody is different and you don't know what sets you over the edge. And being that he was a
Right.
cop or whatever it was, he's seen a lot of shit. So
Yeah.
you know, maybe that did set him over the edge, you know?
Yeah, and I agree. I was just kind of agreeing with you by doing something in his past, like establishing that he did have some issues as a child.
Right.
That kind of leads into, okay, that's, you know, it's reverting back to, you know, who he used to be or whatever. You know, you could go either way. You could look at it and be like, oh, they've ruined my Punisher by doing this. But I
Yeah.
agree with you guys that it added more depth to his character than just a dude that snapped and started killing a bunch of people.
Right.
And again, I think something that I really like about this, and why I think this has succeeded over other Punisher books so far, is just A, they're doing something different, but B, and like I was saying before, there's an actual commentary about gun control and how his relationship, you know, was affected by guns, and how his wife was murdered and came back. There's just so many layers to it where I'm like, oh, this feels like a potential of an Immortal Hulk or a Venom to me, where it's like, oh, they're doing something different enough, but still keeping to the core of the character. And I'm like, oh, I'm ready for this ride.
Right.
Yeah. It's also interesting that he's basically been manipulated and groomed for this position since he was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something I didn't really see coming either. So it's like, I'm really intrigued by that. And like, if that's going to last, or if he's going to at some point realize he's being manipulated and controlled and snap the other way. You know, there are multiple ways you could go with the story, and I'm on board for all of them so far.
Yeah. How long do you think? I mean,
I don't want to go for 50 issues. Oh, I thought you wanted to say like, how long do you want this series to
I could see this being like a, I'm sorry.
I could see this going on. I'm just curious though, when he snaps again, I think the wife dies.
Ooh. You know, it'll be interesting.
Or it's a bait and switch.
Yeah, I'm curious what happened to the kids. There's so many layers. Again, I don't know if I want this to be a 50 issue series, because I think that was the drawback from Immortal Hulk. Because like, ooh, that shouldn't have been 50 issues. It could have been a really, really solid 30. But there's a lot of story to tell here. I'm looking forward to Punisher, because like, again, I've never felt that way, and it's been a while since I felt that way with a lot of superhero books. Like, I like Dark Knight of Steel. I've enjoyed Nightwing. I enjoy Robin. But to really, truly be excited about a book, I'm like, oh, I'm actually excited for Punisher.
Yeah, I'm getting the feeling of this when I started reading Daredevil, when it was really good. And it's that kind of vibe. And, you know, somebody just mentioned they could bring Daredevil and Elektra into this series. And I think that would make perfect sense, or you lead up to some kind of altercation between the two, you know, because the Hand is, you know, that history with Daredevil and Elektra. So, yeah, there's so many interesting directions you can go, but I could see this being a longer title, longer story. So.
All right. That's pretty cool right there. All right. Whose was that? It was Cats, right?
Cats.
Yes.
Brant, what was yours?
Mine was Amazing Spider-Man, so we already talked about it.
All right. Cool. So that's high up on your list, too. All right. And my number 4 was Gunslinger, issue 7. It was number 2 originally. So, I love Gunslinger Spawn. This book for me is just like a pure 90s book. Like if you wanted to read a comic with full of action, with Spawn battling and everything else, I think it's just a lot of fun. Again, that Brett Booth artwork, I love it. He interacts with She-Spun in this book, and I know you guys don't even know who she is, but it's just a lot of fun. It's great characters involved, and I have a good time reading it. So great stuff there.
Nice.
All right. So
Trev says Mike being the only one leaving Spider-Man off the list.
Yeah,
that is kind of funny.
It happens. It
funny.
happens. We also have another question. I wasn't planning on hitting the store until Friday. Is there anything I should pop my head in immediately for tomorrow? We'll actually talk about our most anticipated in a bit, but we will say, at least me and Mike were talking about it, there is not much coming out tomorrow. So if you need to wait for a Friday or even Saturday, wait for your free comic book day.
Yeah,
I think this will be okay.
I think that's what he said, free day, so free comic book day. But yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Friday. But yeah, if you're waiting for free comic book day,
you probably could this week. Yeah.
Yeah, this week I don't see a problem with that.
All right. So let's see, where are we at now? I was reading the comments for. All right, so where are we at? Thor?
Yes, because I think
All
we
right.
all did our number 4s.
Oh, Thor issue 24, dude.
Or
This is so
750, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Thor was a bore. That's what it was.
Oh my
And
goodness.
what's so frustrating about that is that the Don and Kate story was actually interesting. Like I enjoyed a lot of the stuff there. Like, oh, the Loki stuff was interesting. I really liked the cliffhanger with Valhalla. I enjoyed the funeral. I'm like, oh, if it was just that, the issue would have been fine. And then you have this like 30-page reminiscence of old school Thor. And I'm like, I just don't care. I just want to see what's going on in current Thor.
Yeah, we're supposed to. It's a milestone issue, so that's kind of why.
I hate that. I just hate that.
I would rather for a milestone issue you give me this longer epic story than an anthology.
Yeah.
I don't understand that practice with anniversary issues.
I agree.
It's money saving. You have to have more artists, so time saving. It's all of it.
Yeah.
I did not read the middle parts of the story. I read the beginning and I read the end.
I skimmed it. Once I got to like page 3, I was like, "This is not for me." And then I just read the other stuff.
But this story will be interesting, I think, going forward with his father in the Hammer. I think that is definitely different there.
So cool.
That's the most interesting part about it. Yeah, but like I was telling you all, it took me 3 sittings to get through this book, and I started off reading it fully, and then like halfway through, I was like, I'm just going to skim the rest of this. It was just Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the thing that kind of sucks about it, though, is that we have this really interesting ending with Valhalla and Thor and his dad. But then we're going to go to Hulk and Thor, and you're going to, like, kind of fuck that up and not have it for 2 months. And I was like, do I really need to see Hulk and Thor that badly? I'd rather see this story.
I think Thor and Hulk, though, is going to be fun. I think that's something that could be.
2 months of not having the actual story.
Well,
or
maybe that's why they kind of left it on an uneventful cliffhanger, because the main part, the main part of the story ended last issue. You already kind of knew that the Hammer was enchanted by his father by the end of that last issue. This just reiterated that.
But the Valhalla ending, that was interesting.
It's good, yeah, but it's not like. I don't think you can forget that. They didn't go in depth with it.
You're not going to forget
one
it.
Panel, right? So you're like, so when it continues, you'll be like, oh, it's the Hammer's back, Valhalla, that and that. So for right now, just enjoy some Thor kicking Hulk's ass or vice versa.
I don't need that. I need I like my Thor. I like my monthly Thor.
Like you said, Kat, it's money. Thor and Hulk.
It is money. Trust me, I know. And I hope it's a good story, but I just want the story.
Yeah.
So we had those couple questions there. Yeah, are we sticking with Spider-Man? We already said yes. We are definitely sticking with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And here we got B-Man's World. Of course, I'm not dropping it. You guys, it's one damn issue. I thought it was pretty great. Let Wells work a little bit. Damn.
Yeah, it's not Wells that's the problem for us, but that's fine.
Yeah, he'll be off of it soon. I'm telling you, he's going to do 1 issue a month or whatever it is. That's it. All right. So we talked about Thor. Oh, wow. We're actually talking about this book. Joker issue 14.
What's so funny about this book, too? Every single time I think it's the last issue. Every single time. I'm like, it's still another issue.
I actually thought it was.
This is the last issue. Me too.
I thought it was. The way that we're explaining everything, I'm like, this is it. But the only reason why I didn't know that, because someone else in my comments told me that this was not the last issue. I'm like, shit, there's one more of this? Like, this could have easily been the end of it, for sure.
There's been, I thought this book was ending 5 months ago, and it just never ends. And honestly, this issue is so, I did not care, because this is point A to point B, where like, what happened in between this present time and the past? Did he kill the Joker? I'm like, at this point, I don't care. So, I'm just like, you're not even building it up anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get a payoff in the issue, and that's the problem. It's like you do this flash forward, flashback thing, and then there's no payoff, and it's like another cliffhanger. And yeah, it's so drawn out at this point. It's just like, please end it and let me know what happened.
And then you had Bane and Vengeance meet, and he's like, daughter. And then he's like, you can't control your vengeance, and that's what makes you weak and blah or blind. And I'm just like, okay. Like,
Yeah, it was not
this,
interesting to me.
this book had so much potential.
Yeah.
It started off so good. And man, what
I really think I
happened?
had to do with the Substack stuff. I really think if Tynion stayed on the Batman books, this would have been a whole different series.
Right.
Mm,
Yeah. All
quite
right.
possible.
Let's move on. Let's go on to number 3. So what was yours, Brant?
Mine was Punisher, which we already talked about.
Cat?
Mine was Saga. We already talked about it.
All right. My number 3 is Carnage issue 2. It was originally my number 1.
Whoa.
So it dropped a couple spots.
Is this issue 1
wow.
or is it issue 2?
This is issue 2.
It's issue 2.
Okay.
Yeah. This book is really good though. Like,
It's better than I thought it was going to be.
yeah, like this is better than the Venom book by far. Like Rom V can write a good Carnage book. This Carnage basically gets this guy who wants to be Carnage's host, so he tags him along with him. And Carnage has this thing where I don't need a host, but you can come along with me, and he absorbs what's his name?
Hydro Man.
Hydro Man's water molecules.
Yeah.
And at the end of the issue, he's now he wants to power up more and absorb the Spot's powers from Spider-Man. And that was so crazy. Now, the detective that was investigating this whole murder, Carnage feels like he has something in common with this guy. So he wound up giving him a piece of him. And now this guy is I don't know, becoming something more. It was so intriguing to me. I really enjoyed it. What did you think, Brett?
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like Carnage is obsessed with the detective, and the serial killer is just like this little toy that he's got along for the journey to play with and do things through, and whatever. And it's not going to end well for that serial killer dude, because I think ultimately, if he is going to have a host, it's going to be that detective.
Yeah,
or he's just I don't know. He's toying with both of them. It's so weird. You don't know what the symbiote's motivations are, but this whole twist of him being able to absorb other people's powers now, something we've never seen before with the symbiote. So that makes it really interesting. And it's how many people is he going to get? I mean, ultimately you're going to have this supercharged Carnage symbiote that can do pretty much anything. And that's
he's figured a way to evolve, which is quite interesting. And this the way this book is going, it's like a Spider-Man villains horror book. That's kind of what this is, right?
Yeah.
And this serial killer and detective are in the crosshairs here. And again, what's going to become of this detective? Is the symbiote that he has, the Carnage symbiote, going to slowly possess him or take him over? Does he become something much more? That's what I'm very curious about seeing.
Yeah.
So, really cool book. All right. So, let's move on to... That was our number 3, right? So...
Yeah.
All right. So, we talked about Punisher. Oh, okay. So, we're talking about these two books together. So, Deathstroke Incorporated, and then we have Robin. Out of these two books, for me, I felt that the Robin issue was much better.
Absolutely.
I mean, especially from an artwork perspective too,
Oh,
and story wise. But I
Yeah.
will say these do suffer from point A to point B syndrome, where it's just not a lot happens in either of them. Well, especially Deathstroke, not a lot happens. But I think they're both good character work books. I did not like the ending of Robin though, where he's just I'm going to team up with Batman. I'm like, why did that happen so quickly?
Because it's leading into Batman 120, whatever it is, tomorrow.
I thought the lead up could have been better.
today.
There.
You guys
But
team up,
I
yeah.
enjoyed it.
Everything's all hunky dory now. We're good. We're straight now.
Came out of nowhere. But no, the story was good, and I like the art. I like this event a lot. I just think these two parts were a little bit more forgettable.
I thought that the second part, or the first part with the Deathstroke Incorporated, was a very forgettable. It was Talia and Batman. No, they did not hook up, right? So they just shared.
That was a good reveal.
And it was just really nothing happened there. it was just, again, her explaining, I didn't do it, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And this issue, the Robin issue, was much better because you got Damian meeting up with Respawn, and then he's finding out who he truly is. They were fighting each other for a little bit, and I thought that was kind of cool. They finally came to a realization that, okay, Deathstroke finally didn't do it, so who did do it? And then you get, obviously, the reunited, Batman and Damian. So I felt there was some accomplishment in that issue.
Yeah, I felt like Deathstroke could have been wrapped up in like the first 3 pages of Robin. You know what I mean? So we didn't need that whole issue for that setup. But yeah, Robin was fantastic. The art in Deathstroke I really did not care for at all. And
it wasn't Howard Porter, but it looked a lot like his art.
Yeah, it looked like something I've seen before too, and I can't place my finger on what exactly it is, but I just know I didn't like it. But Robin was good, and that whole meeting with Respawn, like you guys mentioned, and calling him brother, and then still trying to kill him. Was fun and interesting, and then Batman's reaction seeing the two of them, and then obviously he jumps to the who are you? What shapeshifter? What villain are you? And that kind of thing. So yeah, but I agree there were better issues of Robin in the past, but I do enjoy this event. I think this was a solid issue all the same, and I can't wait to see how this concludes.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question here, or a comment, going back to Carnage. Maybe the evolution happened when he was disconnected from the Hive. So with that whole situation, very possible. Yeah. All right. So we got that taken care of. Let's see where we at here. So we took care of that. So now we go on to our number 2. And Kat, what was your number 2?
Mine was Rogue Sun, issue 3.
Really?
We're up to issue 3. I really like this issue.
My number 6.
Number 6. Brent, where did it land for you?
Number 7, so not that
number
low
7.
or
Okay.
anything.
I enjoyed this issue because I feel like we got a lot from the supporting cast members, and we kind of got to learn a little bit about them. Because it was about the brother, and everyone thinks like, oh, well, he maybe killed the dad, and we find out he doesn't, and I really like the pathway to that. I also like that the daughter might be a villain as well, and I just thought we learned a lot about the supporting cast members here, and it made it feel like a more fleshed out world. I thought there was good action in it. I'm just enjoying the ride for this book.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed those aspects of it. Absolutely. I'm not getting enough from, what is his name, Dylan, the main character?
Dylan's the main character.
I think he's I won't say he's the least interesting because I think he's an interesting character, but I think the things around him make him interesting.
Yeah. But when, it's his book and he's the star, that's kind of a problem for me. And that's kind of why it's a little bit lower. I'm just not feeling this one like I would a Radiant Black. It hasn't grabbed me yet. I really like that introductory issue that you didn't like, Kat, that introduced us to this world. And I like the first issue of this series too, but since then it just seems like he's taken a back seat to those other characters. And I want to see more of him shining a little bit and coming into his own. But I do think all the stuff around him is very intriguing too. I love the twist with the sister too.
Yeah, twist with the sister was cool. I love how they introduced the prison. That was interesting.
That was cool too. Yeah.
And just the mythology of the world was really cool. Like how they're not explaining things, but you're learning things along the way. I just think this is the way you do a book like this. Because I was talking to Mike about Young Justice Phantoms, the show where it's just like everything's explained at you and you don't actually get to feel the world. And this makes me feel the world. Like I feel like I'm learning things without it being explained to me.
Oh, I totally get that. Yeah.
What I like about it is we always feel that to make a complete comic book, you've got to have a great supporting cast. So I feel like what they're doing here is they're really showcasing the supporting cast so you can feel for them. And you're going to eventually feel for that main character as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, building a world for sure.
Right.
So I love the book. I thought the book was good. In any other week, this could be a number 1 book for me because I liked it as well. So, all right. So let's see where we at.
That was my number
Marvel
2.
Beyond. Oh, that was your number 2.
I'm only one. Yeah, I'm only one.
Sorry, we have it listed under the number 2 spot.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so Bram, what was your number 2 then?
Mine was actually Robin, so we just talked about that.
All right, my number 2 was We Have Demons. I
Hmm.
really enjoyed this book. I think this is a great story about this girl becoming part of this Halo group and whatnot, and finding out all this mythology and this group trying to convince her. And she had her father's best friend that was almost one of these demons. There was a lot of great action in this book. I mean, there was just the artwork is gorgeous. So you talk about Remuda artwork and then you talk about Capullo artwork. It's like night and day. This book is gorgeous to look at. The action is absolutely outstanding. It's phenomenal, right? And by the time you get to the end of this book, you want to definitely read more because this has to do with her father. I thought this was excellent. And even though this is an oversized book, it is a little bit dense. I never find myself bored reading this book. So that's why I like it so much.
Cool. I did not read this, so I got no commentary.
I only read the first issue. I didn't get to read the second issue.
Gotcha. All right. So we talked about these other 2 books already, so we'll just jump into our number 1. Brant, what's your number 1?
Dark Knights of Steel.
Nice.
Mine too.
Wow. All
Nice.
right.
Yeah.
You guys are never gonna guess my fucking number 1.
I don't know, honestly, at this point.
It is the Naughty List from.
Oh, okay.
After
I passed on that. I thought about it. Yeah. That was good.
Let me tell you, this was a freaking great book. So this guy, right? He was born in the 1400s. Okay. And what happens is this was during the time when the plague was happening. All these kids were dying, and he knew that these kids were dying. So what he did is just to give them a smile on their face, he would just like give them stuff, or just some spare money or whatever it was. And then one night what happens is he sees this star in the sky and he says, you know, if I could just help these kids, even just for a little bit, give them a little something to make their life better, that would be great. And so he gets granted this wish, and it curses him for the rest of his life. He basically becomes Santa Claus. So at first, it's like all of a sudden he's got these magical powers where he just carves toys over and over. And it just starts off like you see the evolution of Santa Claus here. He would go to sick kids, he would give them these presents, and then you get to see it evolve over years and years, where it was just like, then people would send him letters and he would have to travel. And then it got so big to where he couldn't do it all. So he wound up seeing him get like outcasts, like elves and stuff like that. And it's just like, and then you just get to see time passes where it becomes like modern day. And then he's like, these kids, they become freaking brats. They don't believe in me. And he's like, and their parents spoil them so much. And he's like, I outlived my elves and my reindeer and all this other stuff. It's like crazy. And he's like, he tried to commit suicide a bunch of times. He doesn't drive a sleigh. He drives a freaking truck while the reindeer pull a Ford truck or whatnot. And he just becomes like, he's just this lousy guy because he's been alive forever. And he looks at this as a curse, right? And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this book, he finds out, though, that since there's all this crime, there's this human trafficking that's going on, and they killed a lot of innocent people and kids. And he goes, you know what? He's like, that's it. He's like, I've been sitting on the bench for a while and not gave a crap. But as soon as you messing with innocent people and kids, that's it. I'm going to take matters in my own hands. So it looks like now he's going to be like some superhero Santa Claus. Dude, it was so awesome. Like when you read
That's
this
a cool
book,
concept.
it is great concept. And even at the end of this book, they have like flyers for like Santa Claus party that's going on and just all these weird stuff. It's amazing, man. It's really surprised me. It's like at first I was like, it's kind of cool, you know, and then I'm like, is it going to be cool? And when I flipped through it, there wasn't like really any action or anything. Like it looked underwhelming, but when you read it, it It was just so different. And I think that's what I really liked about it. And just seeing the evolution of this guy was a lot of fun too. But these pictures, I want to show you this real quick. Yeah, they have like this weekend. It has like these events that's going on. It's like featured Comet the 18th, like it's the 18th version of Comet. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my
Because
God.
that's how long he's been alive. Adults $12, kids are under, there's like reindeer races, like reindeer games. So it has like the betting odds, that's on there as well.
Oh man.
Just amazing, dude. So really good. 9 rules for workplace safety. So it's just great stuff. It was a phenomenal read. Blew me out of the water. I couldn't believe it was that good.
It's always nice seeing indie, surprise, because those are the ones you're like, oh, I don't know what's gonna be about. Don't know these characters. So I think that's cool. We do have a $5 super chat by Supreme Omega. Cool. On the Miss Marvel mini, I just want grounded storytelling again. None of this multiverse stuff, with more focus on the supporting cast in Jersey City. Yeah, no, I think we're all in agreement for that one. They also left that series on a cliffhanger. We're like, where is this going to continue? So it's like, why did you leave it on a cliffhanger?
It's like, she'll be back this summer. Okay, thanks. Another mini coming your way.
Right? Yeah, right. No, they had those team up one shots. It's like,
oh yeah, that's probably what.
There? Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I completely agree with you, though. Yeah, more supporting cast, more grounded.
All right, so thank you for that super chat, Supreme Omega. So that is all the comics that we were talking about. So we're talking about now, we had the question of what we were anticipating. So let's talk about those books.
A few books that we have coming in. I will say this is the first time where there's many different books, because it's a kind of underwhelming week next week or tomorrow.
There's only one repeated book between all three of us, so that's kind of neat this time. So, we'll start with you, Kat. What are your top 3 anticipated?
It's more stuff that I already know I'm going to enjoy. So number 3 is Radiant Black for me. New season for them. Seeing where it's coming, where it's going with the mythology, honestly, because we get to see Nathan's back. What's that going to be like? We're going to get more teases of the mythology of Radiant Black. So interested in that. Number 2 is Firepower, because I just love that series. I think even when it's slow, it's still really good because there's some good action. And we're definitely getting into some of the bigger storytelling with the dragon here. And then number 1 for me, after the show got canceled, Legends of Tomorrow issue 3, which I actually already read because I had to read it for our podcast. So if you want my thoughts on Legends of Tomorrow, go check out the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, which I'll link in the chat if you're fans of the show. But yeah, now I actually wrote that down before I knew it got canceled. So I was like, oh, I'm just looking forward to this because I like the show. Now it's like, oh, it's the last Legends story we're gonna get. So that's why it's my most anticipated.
Nice, very cool. Some good books there. Not so much the Legends for me, but the other 2 I'm definitely on board with. All right, Mike, what about you?
So I am looking forward to Batman 123, obviously, because of the whole Robin experience or the Shadow War experience. Number 2 is Flashpoint Beyond, issue 1. I did like the 0 issue, so this is the official kickoff issue of this little event here, so I'm looking forward to what that has to offer. And then we have Spider-Man 2099 Exodus issue 1, so we have this new 2099 series, which very nostalgic for me. I like the 2099 character, plus there's going to be other 2099 characters being introduced in this world. So we got like Ghost Rider, and then we're going to have Winter Soldier, and so I'm going to look into this like not trying to take it too seriously and just have fun with it.
Gotcha. All right. So my number 3 is Twig number 1. This is the new Scotty Young book.
Yeah.
And just the description sounded cool. It's like a dark crystal world. And just a cute little creature in that kind of world. So it's like that contrast. So that I think that could be a lot of fun. Archer and Armstrong Forever number 1 is next from Valiant. When Valiant relaunched, Archer and Armstrong was my favorite title from them, and now Armstrong has lost his immortality, so that's going to be interesting to see how they go forward with that. And then you already talked about Flashpoint Beyond. That is my number 1, so looking forward to that as well.
Awesome. So that looks like that's about it, guys. So, Kat, you want to promote that wonderful Kickstarter again that you raised already $16,000 for?
All right, it's crazy. We do have only until Thursday to support. We actually got a good bump during the show because we have reached that 48 hours, so people start getting emails saying we're ending soon. So go check it out. It's about a high school girl. That's another comic. It's about an anime character that comes to life and falls in love with a high school cheerleader. It's a lot of fun. It's a romance book, but it's really a book about life and what is life. So we deconstruct the slice of life genre, but we also have action in it. We have all mix of genres. So if you enjoy webtoon or webcomics, I think you'll really enjoy this. We actually reached over 1 million views in less than a year. We have 1.2 million. So we got like 200,000 views in like 2 days. So that was kind of crazy. And we're up to like 35,000 subscribers on the webtoon. So glad it's reaching people. And I'll plug the webtoon in the chat too. I'll also be at Best Comics in Long Island for Free Comic Book Day. So if you want to actually pick up physically Slice of Life and all my other books, go visit us. We will be there all day signing. So exciting about that. I know, are we announcing the interview we're doing next week? Brant, do you want to take that over if we're announcing it?
I mean, yeah, we can announce it. We are having a guest come on next week to be with us that has a book coming out in June. Middle of June. It's a new Archie book. I think it's called the Best Archie Comic Ever or something like that.
Which is has a Free Comic Book Day version, I think, as well. So
yeah.
I think there's like issue 0. So it'd be, pick it up this weekend, and then we get to talk to the writer, which is cool.
Yeah, so I apologize if I get your last name wrong, but it's Ruben Najera, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's going to come on, and he's got a really interesting story and interesting path to comics that he's going to share with us, and also talk about some comics coming out and all that good stuff. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to chatting with Ruben.
Sweet. Yeah, for me, tomorrow I'm actually going to the comic shop early so I can do a video for Free Comic Book Day. So we're going to talk about all the new comics for Free Comic Book Day that are getting ready to come out. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And looking forward to Free Comic Book Day, and going to see Doctor Strange on Saturday. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So you can look for a video from me on that as well, on my thoughts on it. Oh, obviously it's going to be spoiler free. So yeah, me and Braden are going to see it with one of Braden's friends and his father. So I think that will be a lot of fun.
Brant, are you going to see it this week, or are you waiting Doctor Strange out?
Probably not this week. It'll probably be the next week, hopefully. Yeah. I'm always late with these things. I apologize. Just when I can get everybody together. Like I said, we go with my wife's brother to the Marvel movies, so it's when we can get all our schedules together and all that stuff. So, but yeah, and I also want to mention I have a wrestling podcast I just started. I put up the 3rd episode this morning. It's the All Cast, and I just dropped a link in the comments if you want to check it out, or you can check out the YouTube channel, allpodcast.com. It's AWEpodcast.com.
Awesome. So there you guys have it. There is the show for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You enjoyed all of last week's comic books. Now it's a new comic book week. Get to your shop, buy your comic books. And guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And of course, you want to subscribe to Comic Book Weekly YouTube channel and Comic Book Corner 2.0. Make sure you take care of that. Hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, especially when it comes to this show each week, Tuesday nights at 10:15-ish p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, guys, follow us on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, of course, YouTube. And as always, guys, this is the waving part. Until next time, happy new comic book day, happy Free Comic Book Day, and enjoy Doctor Strange.